On a warm summer evening in Charlotte, North Carolina, 27-year-old Michael Turner was driving home from basketball practice. He had always been an athlete, known in his neighborhood for his speed on the court and his relentless determination. But in a single instant, everything changed. A distracted driver ran a red light and slammed into Michael's car. The impact spun his vehicle across the intersection, crushing the front end. When the paramedics arrived, Michael was barely conscious. By the time he woke up in the hospital, his entire world had been shattered. Doctors told him the accident had damaged his spine. Their words cut like knives. "Michael, you may never walk again." At first, Michael thought it was a nightmare. He would wake up, get out of bed, and everything would be normal. But days turned into weeks, and reality sank in. He was confined to a wheelchair, unable to stand on his own. The strong, confident athlete who once outran his opponents now struggled just to lift himself into a chair. The weight of hopelessness pressed down on him. Friends visited, but he could see pity in their eyes. Nights were the worst, lying awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying the crash over and over. He asked himself questions that had no answers. Why me? Why now? Is my life over? But deep inside, a small voice refused to die. It reminded Michael of his high school coach, who once told him, "Setbacks don't define you. Comebacks do." That voice grew louder every time he thought about the doctor's words. Never walk again. No, that's not my story. One morning, after weeks of therapy sessions where progress felt non-existent, Michael looked at himself in the mirror. His body was weak, but his eyes burned with fire. He whispered, "They said I'd never walk again, so I'll run." The road forward was brutal. Physical therapy became his battlefield. At first, simply flexing his toes felt impossible. He fell again and again while trying to stand with support. The pain was sharp, the frustration even sharper. There were moments he wanted to quit. Moments when tears blurred his vision and anger consumed him. But Michael had made a promise to himself. And promises meant everything. Every drop of sweat, every shaky movement, every painful attempt was proof he was still in the fight. His therapists often reminded him, progress is progress, no matter how small. Slowly, those tiny steps began to add up. Months later, Michael managed to stand with crutches. It wasn't graceful, but it was a victory. He recorded a video of himself taking 3 wobbly steps and sent it to his mom. She cried when she saw it, not out of sadness, but pride. Those steps ignited something inside him. They weren't just steps. They were symbols of resilience, defiance, and hope. Each day, he pushed harder, training his body and his mind. He visualized himself running, feeling the wind against his face, hearing the pounding rhythm of his feet on the track. The turning point came almost a year after the accident. Michael set a bold goal, to participate in a local charity 5K race. His friends thought he was joking. Some even warned him not to push too far. But Michael wasn't chasing approval. He was chasing freedom. Training was grueling. He stumbled, fell, and limped through practice runs. Some days, pain forced him back into the wheelchair. But he always returned to the track. He refused to surrender. On race day, Michael stood at the starting line with trembling legs. The crowd cheered, many of them unaware of his journey. As the race began, he moved forward step by step, fueled not by strength alone, but by an unbreakable spirit. Halfway through, his legs screamed in pain. Doubt whispered in his ear, telling him to stop. But then he remembered the doctor's words, "You may never walk again." With a surge of determination, he pushed harder. As he approached the final stretch, the crowd noticed him. They began to cheer louder, realizing what was happening. Tears filled Michael's eyes as he crossed the finish line, not because he had won the race, but because he had won his life back. He collapsed into the arms of his friends, exhausted but victorious. Against all odds, he had turned a tragedy into a triumph. That day, Michael became more than an athlete. He became a living reminder of resilience. His story spread across his city, inspiring people who faced their own battles: cancer patients, struggling students, people recovering from heartbreak. Everyone saw in him the truth. The human spirit is stronger than any obstacle. Michael often shares his journey now, and his message is simple. Your comeback starts the moment you decide it does. Pain is temporary. Determination is permanent. And no matter what anyone says, your story isn't finished until you choose it is. This isn't just Michael's journey. It's a comeback motivation story for anyone who has ever been told they can't, they won't, or they shouldn't. The takeaway is clear. Setbacks are not the end. They are the beginning of comebacks. When life tells you never, let that be your reason to fight for yes. Michael Turner didn't just walk again. He ran. And in doing so, he showed the world that the strongest victories are born from the hardest battles.